Hey, so our guest speaker today is Kochakorn Borakom. Koch is a Thai landscape architect known for designing public spaces that address the climate crisis in dense urban environments. Her work has earned her the UN Global Climate Action Award, Women for Results. She chairs the Climate Change Working Group for the International Federation of Landscape Architects and is a member of the World Economic Forum's Global Commission on Nature Positive Cities. Koch is a leading voice in the fight against climate change and has been pivotal in advancing nature-based solutions globally from COP26 and onwards. She advocates for landscape-based solutions to enhance urban resilience worldwide, inspiring the next generation of designers to create sustainable solutions that address current and future climate challenges. Please join me in welcoming Koch to our session today.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you all the member of CSLA. I'm very honored to be with you here today. And yes, normally webinar is webinar, but I just feel very excited for this webinar. So please feel free to engage with me, with Catherine, and yes, make it like we are actually sitting in the room together. Yes. So, Catherine, should I start now? Yes?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so today we talk. I'm actually in very close to you. I'm not in Thailand. I'm actually in the US and doing my tour on speaking and engaging. So it's a very interesting climate in the sense that some of the places that I attend, I'm not allowed to speak the word climate change, or some of the plays I'm not allowed to mention about the word inclusivity. So it's a very different, and I just really want to share what I used to share before, and I think it's a really still critical even nowadays what I'm fighting for, what we are fighting for as a profession. So today I will talk about my work, and please feel free to send out your questions, your comments. I would love to read that. I'm also with other audience too. And yes, I'm going to talk about the whole thing about adaptive coexistence. I know we talk about a lot about adaptation, but what are we adapting for? We're actually adapting for coexistence. So you're not just adapt to survive, you adapt to coexist with others, other with like big S. So I think it's a pathway of how people love to say like resilience has been used too generic or too many times until it's dilute its own meanings. So I think maybe at the end we can come back and talk about the resilience and of course the fear-based world. I think this is quite clear that we are actually a part of this feeling or a part of this system in terms of political or many issues. Like geopolitics, conflicts, economic instability, lingering pandemics, and of course climate change. And I think normally when we talk about even the whole problems of many like wars and many more, this is like the reality that I think the environment or climate change or like the ground that we're standing on, the same ground that our ancestor has inhabited, and it should be like a big foundation for this whole triangle to stay, whatever the upper part problem would be. So I think this is the reality that the foundation of how the stability of this triangle or our world structure. But in reality, it has been reversed, right? The climate change, environmental issues, and climate change mean many things like indigenous people, their land, the wisdom, the water, the fire, and many things. I think it's has been threatened as not very a priority things. So now with this situation, we are so focused on tariff, we are so focused on gold price and many other things like money, bonds, AI, and lingering pandemic, and put climate change in such a very small portion of this structure. And I think if we continue believe in this structure or doing in this kind of fear base, I think we could not hold this triangle. Eventually, all of us will collapse.
Not a floodplain from the beginning, and flooding is as part of the living. But in the past, we learned how to live with the flooding through agriculture, through building house on the stilt. We use boat, we use canals as a mode of transportation. I just feel that the being of water people is still in our culture, in our being, but we just have to shift the urban infrastructure and invest in the right direction and learn to adapt even more. We use boat, we use canals as a mode of transportation. Like our body, fixing out those alkali, the rain of the city, the drainage pattern, the natural drainage pattern of the city. I think that would be a critical and also nature positive, because right now all the canal is a sewage way. No one want to talk about it. No, we don't even use it. But in the past, it's actually part of life. Is how we commute, how we take shower, how we get food. It's like our kitchens. It's like everything. One of the victims, and with millions of my citizens, like Thai citizens. So I just feel that how can I be more benefit to fix these problems? And of course, home is so important to everyone, including us as an animal or as a social being. So I just feel that by saving your home or try to fix your home to be safe is such a calling to me. After this past 100 years, we become such a big concrete city. So all of our city is built on top of floodplain. So when the city is not willing to get wet at all, so we sacrifice so much and we put so much hard infrastructure. We think about building more dams. That's mean destroying more forest, which we don't want to destroy anymore.
So I think you can have a little bit sense of what Bangkok's really look like, and but my country and many like countries look like when we are in the Delta areas. And actually myself and many of others mayors and experts, we are part of the Global Commission on the movement of nature positive cities. And I think this is what I just talked to Kathleen that this is what we have as a profession. We have been doing this for like centuries. So I think this is such a right moment for us to have the right seats and the right audience to amplify our voice as a landscape architect, and what we can do to really not just design, but what is the purpose of what we can do to the global problems and the city. And yes, this is Bangkok, and I think if you have been, you can put the heart on. But if you never been, this is what it look like. And we are, yes, there's like two people out of these 200 maybe. Yeah, so this is, we are flat, we are at the ocean, and this is like a big patch of concrete, on top of this floodplain. And this is our way of living. Many people from the past call us amphibious, like amphibious culture and people who can live on land and on water, like we are in between. So we have this kind of, so this is me when I confronting with flooding. It was fun, no school, all the road turned to canals. But this is like the reality in 2011, which is the biggest flood disaster in the top 5 of the global flooding history. Like Katrina in New Orleans, probably like the second most expensive. So, but the difference is we are global south. So this is and Bangkok is actually produce 1/3 of the GDP of nation. So it's like the heart economic engine and everything. So we designed that Bangkok shouldn't get wet. And this is like the whole flood that need to go through this city, but couldn't go through easily. And you can see from this satellite that that area is quite dry. So I think this is like unexpected rain, sea level rise, also our problem, urban heat island, even we from tropical, the heat is like inhabitable at the moment. So it can reach to 50 Celsius, which is crazy. How can we live as a human in those kind of environment? And this is Bangkok boundary within people lifetime. Let's say 50 years ago, it used to be land here, kind of like a clay beach. But now it need, if you want to go there, you have to go there by boat, and it probably takes you 30 minutes to get there. And I think it's like a very conjunction of all these crises combined in my country. This is very normal in rainy season. This is who we are, very creative, very resilient. This is the version of amphibious with the modern infrastructure. And this is real when every time with a big flood. So there's like also many other beings that also within the city that we don't really think about too much. And PM 2.5, and it's all the monocrops burning all the field at once. It's just, this is like the morning of Bangkok, many of days in the years. So if you look at this global carbon emission, so Canada is actually 1.5%. And many of us, including me, we are rest of the world. But when it's come to the extreme climate, we are top 10 most at-risk city. So if we want to debate about who burned the most fossil fuel that make us into this situation, and I think it's not going to be like a very easy conversation. But that thing is already in the past. Of course, we cannot change many. But let's think about what left to be done. Thinking about one of my friends mentioned like the whole carbon that will emit right now is like metaphor like a bathtub that almost full with water. And it's like these little gaps that what about the last cup that we're gonna pour into this bathtub before the whole thing is pouring. And when the whole water is pouring out of the top, which is mean the temperature of the world probably reach 1.5 and 2 or 2 Celsius. And that's gonna create us even more disastrous. So who gonna pour that last cup? I think that's what conversation of the COP has been doing all this almost 30 years. This year is the 30 conference of how we also talking about climate change. And it's never going to be ending, right? The global now, oh, this is the money. The global south say we couldn't get any money like to do what really they have to or want to. The global north say, okay, stop, developed, stop using fossil fuel, right? Stop cutting trees. But how can we do that? So I think this is such a very come to the, of course, talk in the sense of carbon emissions, but there is even more than just mitigation, but it's also how can we adapt to adaptation strategy as well. So I think many of us, including my country, we either adapt or we die. And I think I'm gonna skip this one because I want to have more time. And this is Chulalongkorn Centenary Park. You can search more about it, but I want this webinar to focus on our recent work. So this park, it will go quick a bit. It's inclined, so you can, with a flat area of delta, you can use that development to collect every drops of rain. And with architecture, with wetland, we incline the whole park. This is not when it's not flooded. We also can use the co-benefit. This is what we all do as a profession. And this is Chulalongkorn in the beginning. And 5 years later, this is possible that nature positive city can be done in 5 years. So why don't we start now and we can experience the fruitful of what the city or what nature can actually be part of the city. It doesn't need like the lifetime. Only 5 years. Let's do it now. So this is what Chulalongkorn right now. I'm very lucky. This is like not like the first park talking about water, plants. We are doing this as a profession for century. But I was very lucky that Mr. Antonio Guterres came and support this local solution. And I think the world just starting that time in 2018 talking about nature-based solution. Yeah, but we should say that it's a landscape-based solution. It's actually not nature in itself. We need human, we need culture, we need soil, we need animals, biodiversity, and we can call it landscape-based solution. He came, he biked, he helped clean up the water by aerated. And I told him that Bangkok is sinking, then the sea level is rising. So we are matching up the ocean with our city of 15 million people. Yep, the park got well received. And of course, it's just the right timing with how the UN and how the world want to promote this nature-based solution. And this is another project, which is the biggest urban farm rooftop in Asia, maybe the second largest in the world. And it's huge, but what can we do with the waste space on the roof? that architect often hide their infrastructure or not even think about it that much because it's the elevation that no one see. So with this work with architect, I think we came up with such a good how landscape would be there, also elevation, and of course very simple rice terraces, our own indigenous knowledge of how we deal with rain, with mountainous area, thinking about its buildings and how we cultivate the rain, get food, use scarcity. And this is how the younger generation be part of these activities. And I think it's so much that we need to help the younger generation to be part of this, not just hope, but this action. Oh, this is just a building in the campus. I can do more. And because I think climate change will not deal within everyone's lifetime in this webinar. So I think create hope as a person as well, and hope as a from fear-based should be a hope-based world. And this thing slow down 20 time runoff with solar roof, pumping up water from the fall retention, going up, use gravity, get food. This is how the younger generation use their iPhone, AI, whatever, put down their phone, be in the plantation, understand where the food comes from, the rice coming from. So this is one sample. The other one would be using the wasted infrastructure that was there for 40 years. So 40 years ago, I probably like just was born and they have this crazy project of this infrastructure to just build it. So the SkyTrain at that time would allow alive to be like part of the transportation in the city. But 40 years later, it never came. So we turned that structure, of course, to become the bridge park and the first bridge for pedestrian for feet. And yeah, if you go to Thailand again, go to this place and go to all my projects, but especially this one, so you can feel the river. Because even we are from the river culture, canal culture, the Venice of the East, we really cannot access the river because it's either occupied by government, 6-star hotel, like all of you, all of tourists love to be there, or informal settlement. So we lift up that structure so narrow, it's only 8 meters, just like this one room, one conference room. And with this length, we twist and turn and be part of the city. Adaptive coexistence. So when you want to adapt something, you need to know exactly the existing, the body, the quality of the existing. And I think it's so much landscape architect focus how we need to understand the site. But this time the site is the leftover infrastructure for 40 years. And now you can turn this vacant space to vibrant, how people can enjoy this narrowness space. And this is how they count down. Okay, I really want to talk about this project. I haven't mentioned about this project much because it's just recently finished 5 months ago. And I think it's very relevant to at the moment how we need to shift our government to be more humane. And oops, yes, this is another canal project. Maybe I skipped a bit, but yeah, it's sorry, my slide. But it's actually related to connecting the urban transportation using the most dirtiest canal, the most expensive land in Bangkok to turn it into many things, not just Canal Park, but this can be interchange, introduce walkable. And we're talking about 1,600 canals in Bangkok that's never think about this option before. This is another canal, it's historical canals, but just to deal in that section, this is how many people we have to deal with, work with, convince, and get all the yes together. And I think this is the ability that, of course, I haven't been taught in the school, but this is such a human communication that I think we should equip the landscape architects, the future younger generation, that this is another skill, not only design. And you cannot just only do this, you need to design too, because at the table, we need to have the solution. Okay, so that's canal. Okay, back to the government. And all of this project I show you is actually me and my team and our colleagues working with government. But now this is like a really like government building. I'm wondering, why do government building have to look like this around the world? Is that the same in Canada? Yeah, this is like, why government have to have this kind of feeling. And my wonder is why they have to make us a people feel so small, like really, really small. And when they talk about landscape architects, this is how cute they thought we can do, like all these little potted plants, very, very nice and cute. But we actually can do more. And this is the Thai version of government. Yes. And I think there's so many like emotional less, right? You can't feel when you talk about government. And so almost 10 years ago, we got this plot of land, like actually like before, like right before COVID a bit, we got this plot of land and say, what can we do? Because this is an experience to this government, the biggest government complex in the nation. It's combined 29 ministry departments all together within this. But the problem is there is no public mass transit. Of course, we have bus, but no one use bus in Thai because it's never on time. It's no air condition. It's so hot. When you use bus, you probably get sweat when you go to work. So this campus accommodate 34,000 people per day with no mass public transit. And this is the experience every morning to go to our government complex. Silent. Yes, because it's webinar, not because no one talk, but yes, silent. So yeah, this is, and it doesn't look like government, like, it's all full of this parking space, and it has been there. This complex is about 20 years. So back then we say, oh, the SkyTrain is going to get here in 2024, which is last year. And what can we do to make all this complex ready? The first thing they want to do is adding more parking space. So that is like the requirement from the old master plan that we have to adding on 1,500 parking lots building. And I just feel like, will that thing fix the 34,000 people per day to use this space, and even more in the future? So even how big of the parking space they need is never gonna be sufficient if we don't shift the mindset. Ooh, okay. So I said, okay, this is our critical strategy, and how can we link that thing to the whole campus? The SkyTrain come, this line is so important. And to get this line, it took us 2 years to talk with the Supreme Court of Justice in Thailand, and then the other finance department, just for them to talk together and allow this SkyLink to happen. And yes, it's done. Woohoo! And it's look like a little bit, you know, like movement with some feeling of welcoming. And this is done by landscape architects, of course, working with engineer and architects, like to really like, yeah, let's make it a little bit different. So when we finish that line, the next part is we need to fix this thing because it's an existing parking space. And this is how it looked like. And in the beginning, like no one gonna believe that, oh my gosh, how can we turn the front of this biggest government complex of Thailand into the welcoming from the SkyTrain? And I say, yeah, we can do it. So this is what it looks like right now. And if you can see on the right, you can see that SkyTrain linked to this rooftop and then shifted to become landscape-based solution. And this is a SkyTrain link to that two structure. And you can see that why I use so much curve? Because I want for government to look a little bit feminine. And I think there's nothing wrong with that because half of the officer are females. And I think we should be allowed to use whatever proper, but not like the new language. So a lot of movement, a lot of curve, but still like elegant, say government, not like government, right? Like shouting very strong. So this is the experience. I go quick. And you know, like coming to work, going back, you can feel different. You don't need to feel like so serious. You can be part of the community. All these silos should talk with each other. How can they talk if you don't allow the space to even talk with each other with each building? So we still need the 1,500 parking space building, but we asked them to shift a bit, you know, lift it up a bit so people can commute down to the campus with the EV bus station, with the EV system. And this is how they walk under that building, that parking building. And we also convert the facade of the building to slow down the runoff, make architecture like a blue infrastructure. So this is like the rain chain, the planter system to slow down the rain and create green. And yep, and all the rain here would be collect and celebrate with gold poles, like golden poles. So the white one would be the structure, the gold one would be for the rain. And on top, of course, solar roof, urban farming. This is supposed what government should lead us to do. And I'm so happy, I'm so grateful that the Thanalak, which we're working with, are really with us on this. Really show their leadership in climate adaptation. And this is only first phase. We still have more to do within, and I will come and share later. Yep, so this is a really pinned down to 12 techniques of low carbon. How can we adapt to coexist with the change? Adapt to coexist with changes. So this is the 12 technique, carbon technique for climate resilient urban adaptation. Public transportation, adaptive with buildings, architecture, facade, everything within one. Like as a designer, I want to spell all it out. What can we do? And this is one thing. So I think I have 5 more minutes, Catherine. Correct?
Sure, you have at least 5 more minutes.
Okay, maybe I just go through the community part very quickly. But what I want to say, this is another part of the work. We want to create this top down, but we want to bend this verticality to the horizontality, and we need a top down and bottom up. So just adopt the brain from the sky to the ocean. We need to pass 50 departments that relating with water. What is yours? Maybe less, maybe more, but very complex. So that's mean when we want to stop flooding or something, we need to call these people just to get their yes or whatever we want to manage. And climate change for us mean water, maybe fire as well, but the main component is water, and not only flood but drought. So I, as a landscape architect, this is at COP in Sharm el Sheikh, working with my government, with the help of the Netherlands government, who's somewhat more expert in water. Yes, they are. And we need to leverage. Of course, when I talk to my government, they're probably like, who are you? Why do I have to listen to you? Like, I'm nobody, I'm not a big designer, I'm just a landscape architect, and they thought that I'm only do like potted plant, right? So I think when we want to leverage something, we go to the expert and ask them to be part of this leverage. So with the Netherlands government, talking with my ministry, their ministry, collaborate on this from national to local to Bangkok governor, with the expert that correlated working together. I'm just the behind the scene, trying to manage this thing, make it work. What is the right place? Pull out the younger generation of designer to be part of this process. And let's all these 50 departments talk together about water and what do they mean when they say water. And I think it's such a very like open conversation of how we're gonna fix this problem at par. Using the canals with Deputy Governor Sanon. This is very weird. This is not very common in my country anymore, that people go down to the canal because it's so polluted, so smelly. So just the first thing to start is like, let's celebrate the water culture. Let's celebrate how we used to use canal, and it used to be 3,000 canals to make us Venice of the East. So now it's sewage way. With my colleagues, Pamela Conrad, who was here, we went to the COP in Dubai. So many COP that I can't remember exactly. And we actually produced this work with nature. I'm sure Pamela has already shared with you when she was here with CSLA. I do it again. Is our work on low carbon adaptation technique for changing world. So this is combining all the work of landscape architects. And I talked to Pamela very clearly. Pamela, I'm only do this with you if you have the Global South examples. Only Global North, I don't think we're gonna empower people enough to do adaptation. So I'm glad that the answer of adaptation with many topic has, from heat, from coastal, has been equally distributed, because the wisdom is in our culture. We don't need to copy from, like the US, the Netherlands. We need to work with them to come up with a better solution from who we are, who we used to live with, the balance of nature. So, yep, download this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Cap. This is all our work combined. So the world leader, the nations, especially developing nations, can understand what landscape architecture really doing. And I think I work a lot with people in informal settlement, even since I'm graduate from GSD, to really understand. Of course, when you were young, you thought like, oh, bottom up, bottom up, bottom up. But no, it's actually you need top down too. So this is how I learned through my 10 plus year of working as a landscape architecture. No, as a landscape architect, I'm sorry. So this is like the communities that we work with, doing like canals, and yeah, maybe next time. But I really want to open this things up. So we work a lot with community along the coast to have them have the right in their land, but in the way that's very nature based. And this is like the last piece of Bangkok that about to sink. And we also working this, but I want you all of you to see this news.
A mega project was recently refloated by Thaksin Shinawatra, political doyen and the father and advisor of the current Prime Minister, Paetongtarn
This
Shinawatra.
is our current prime minister.
Pearl necklace. It would consist of a string of 9 artificial islands that would act as a barrier to the rising seas. It's a radical proposal that would involve massive offshore construction. Such a project would irreversibly change the natural dynamics of the Gulf and of water movement in and around Bangkok. And experts say it must be very carefully considered.
I hope that the project of Pearl Necklace wouldn't choke our neck as a nation, because it's only focused in one water element, which is sea level rise. But as a Delta city, as Bangkok, we actually confronting with the big problem of the water from the north. So if we have some more structure that actually gonna make this water flow in opposite direction, that's mean we're gonna create flooded Bangkok forever. I think we need to think systematically. Only just to focus fixing one problem is not going to be enough.
Bangkok is busy with works to improve canals, drainage systems, and water retention infrastructure. But landscape architects like Kochakon are pushing for something different, a rethink about the ways Bangkok manages its water challenge, solutions that rely much more on nature.
The strategy of living with water hasn't been a strategy for Bangkok or for our nations. It seems like Bangkok is actually try to live without water. And it's impossible. We forget the natural element that also very key to how we can be resilient. So I think this is now to really put the strategy of live with water, not live with the fear of it.
Bangkok has grown breathlessly over the past few decades.
So yes, this is another project. Isn't it crazy? And this is the area that has been lost to sediment. And this guy who have to move the house backward for the sea level. And we're working with the community. This is not the solution that we want, that they want. So how? I'm not an activist. I would prefer myself to be the mediator. So this is how we bring together local government with BMA, with national level, hope to find the right direction. And don't even say solution, but just bending them to think correctly. And yeah, and we need nature because only 0.10024 centimeter per second you can hold the sediment. Okay, there's so much to do, but maybe I stop here so I can talk more with all of you. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Koch. Thank you so much.
I told you I need 3 hours.
That was incredibly inspiring. I love how you're thinking about the roots and the people and the water, and yet the scale of these projects is really incredible, and it's great to see what you're doing. I'm going to start off with one question, and then we have some other really good questions that have come in. But I keep going back to the fact that you said at the beginning you're being asked to make presentations where you're not allowed to say the word climate at all. And I'm just curious, or climate change, and I'm really curious how you're handling that.
Well, I would respect because I'm sure that just for them for having me talking about what I'm doing is completely about climate change, right? But it's just this period of time that they can't say it or they can put it in their document. I think it's still I don't want to against because I feel really respectful, but I just feel like there's so many ways to talk about this because this is the fact. This is the fact that we are confronting, no matter you're gonna call it the climate crisis, the blah blah blah. There's like 196 way to say about this thing. And I think it's okay. We just need to push forward. And even with these like crises that we are all confronting, I think it's really get to the core of like who we really are. Like even US Army Corps, it's actually at the US Army Corps engineers that we have this event. So I think it's already like a win that we are with them. So
Mhm.
you shift their mind rather than like against them. Because when you're against them, you no longer have the power of negotiation or even be there to find more friends or who might align your thinking with. So it was fun. It's like another way of tricking your brain.
Yeah, great strategy.
Yeah.
Find the commonalities. Okay, I'm going to start with some of the more broad questions. Do you have any key lessons learned from the global South that could help the global North countries think differently about adaptive coexistence in terms of urban infrastructure and development?
Yes, and like every time when I'm talk about this, and I'll be very like frank that please don't recolonize us with these water technique problems and things. And I think like when we talk about coexistence, and even when I work with like governments like from many other country, I think we're working at par. And that's the way we need to work together to ensure that we get the right solution for us. And of course, I don't want to be called global south, and I don't want to be calling you global north, but this is how we've been labeled, and it's okay. We are very proud to be who we are, no matter it's called global south. But I think my flood is so different than the flood in Netherlands. We can swim in our flood, we can get shower, we can get food, we can have fun with like water festival. But the flood in Netherlands or in that part of the world, if you touch the water, you die because it's so cold. It's such a very different strategy of flooding, or even in Japan, the flood is never come, but when it's come, it's just like really violent with the speed and many other things. So
Mhm.
our flood patterns are very different. We need to understand that. And that's how we can coexist with what you can help us by how helping us helping us help ourselves.
Mhm. Okay. Um, Next question. So a lot of the projects you showed have a lot of concrete. And so the question is, were embedded carbon impacts ever considered, or did you look at alternate materials? And this is, of course, recognizing that the before and after pictures show a world of difference with all the landscape.
Can you say the question?
Well,
I'm
the
just
main the main question is about the amount of concrete
Mm.
and in the projects, and whether you looked at other alternatives given the carbon impacts of concrete.
Okay, we have to admit, concrete is still commodity materials that we can afford in our process, and that is like a low carbon concrete that we always advocate to use. And when we adapt, it's already a concrete structure there. It's not like we have to build from scratch. And of course, we want to there are so innovation that needs to be done, and I admit that I still use the concrete. But if that concrete stop people from using their car, 34,000 cars or maybe less, but in that amount of people user per day, will you invest in that concrete so they can reduce their carbon footprint? So I think that is a trade-off, and don't say that I don't use concrete, but and concrete industry that we try to like pressure them at COP to like produce something that we can use better. So I think we're still in like this process together, and yeah, I think amount of concrete is there, but the purpose of the project is also important as well. Yes.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, next question. I
I
understand
love this.
this is mostly about top-down solutions, but do you have any ideas for adaptive rehabilitation from bottom up, specifically at a residential scale?
Residential scale is, I think it's very different mechanism when you talk about the residential scale, and I'm sure in your country practice might be different than mine. But I think when it's come to the residential scale, the condominiums, housing, something, it's become this kind of like market, and the owner become private sector more. But of course, as a designer, we can convince the private sector to make their thing more green, more sustainable, but it's still a market driven. So and it's kind of sad a bit that for me, I feel like I'm powerless when I'm in that system. But it doesn't mean the public system is easier.
Right.
But you can leverage the value more because government, they need to build infrastructure. They need to invest in something that will benefit, that they commit to the world. There's so many other things, and I'm so grateful that I work with universities, hospitals, and of course some selected politician that I feel our value is are aligned. So, but private sector, even we align with them, but they're still like underneath with the market part that I really want to get into it too. But amount of time that I have, I just want to focus on this part. So I'm probably that's why I choose this. So I'm probably not the right one to answer, but we also do the private sector who value align with us, and we convince them for a better marketing. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I think I realize we're almost at the hour, but I'm going to give you at least one more question. So if
Thank you
that's
for all
okay.
this sticker floating. It's really nice. May I come on you?
Okay, so someone asked about the budget of the park, and I think it was the very first project, the Centenary Park. I'm curious about sort of the budgets of these projects in general, but also I'm going to add on to the question, is the funding coming just from government, and just how is it working that they're willing to invest, fair budgets into these kinds of projects, and how is that coming about?
Okay, so my country, you cannot invest in landscape architecture. They're all about buildings because they didn't know this term. And when the Department of Budget, like national budget, when they say you're gonna do the park 50 million baht, which is like 1 million US, they cannot give you because they never award. Okay, this is one problem. The number two problem is why you can invest in building, why can't you invest in landscape architecture? And people say, oh, this is such an expensive thing. No, there's a building underneath, there's a parking space underneath, there's all the requirement that you need, but you get a better option, right? So it's the same amount of projects, amount of budget, but the projects is actually well executed with more value, right? So the part that I did is 30 30 million. No, it's it's 30 million US. That's 11-acre park plus building underneath plus the road, which is 1.3 kilometers. And people say, oh, crazy expensive. No, when you do buildings, you do like even more expensive than this. But it's just people not having a mindset that, oh, it's just a park. Why it's so expensive? No, it's not just a park. It's an infrastructure. There's a building, there's a groundwater tank, there's so many other things. So I think we need to be clear on this first, that we not only do park, we do adaptation. And I think, but that land is cost $1 billion US. $1 billion US for 30 million investment. And you get this like kind of world-class solution. Or you don't, or you just want a building, like normal building, and just get all your requirement. I think this is such a negotiation that it take years, but we need to peel it out step by step and make them know that this is not expensive. This is the must to do things. Yes.
Okay, well, I think that's wonderful. And I think that's a great inspirational note to end on to help us advocate for the work that we do and its importance and its value. So thank you so much, Kat. It was really interesting, really inspiring,
Thank you,
and we're
Catherine.
grateful.
Yes, and thank you all the audience.